This is HBR News number 455. Elisabeth Holmes of Theranos has sentence slashed. Non-feminist manager is in trouble. Where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Sorry for the delay, guys. Welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. My name is Brian, and I'm here with Hannah Wallen. Dr. Randall Cam is visiting family, and Mike J is still unavailable. We apologize for there was some weird stuff going on with YouTube where our feed wasn't going to the proper places, but we are here now, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the appropriate areas. My name is Brian, and I'm here with Hannah, and we're going to be talking about the news of the week. As you can tell by my voice, I'm still not recovered from whatever the heck I'm afflicted with, but I feel like it gets a little better every day. So we might be doing things a little differently and have Hannah do the readings of the write-ups because just to spare you guys the sound of my voice. So we have some good stuff lined up though this week. We're going to be talking about the latest information regarding Elisabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos. A woman attempts to poison her husband and more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And join us in the after show where we're going to be looking at, for real this time, I have like the tools all ready to go to do some clip editing, and we'll go through that together regarding the show that Allison and I did yesterday. So let's just go ahead and get started. And Hannah, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Alrighty, so our first one is the Theranos follow-up. Elisabeth Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos, has had her prison sentence reduced for the second time in less than a year, according to updated records from the Bureau of Prisons. Holmes, who is currently serving her sentence to federal prison Camp Bryan in Texas, had her original 11-year and 3-month sentence shortened, resulting in her expected release date being moved up to August 16, 2032. Last July, Holmes had another 2 years shaved off her sentence after being convicted on multiple counts of wire fraud related to defrauding investors of over $700 million with false claims about Theranos' blood testing technology. With this latest reduction, she will serve a little over 9 years behind bars. Less time than a kid spends in school from kindergarten through graduation. The Bureau of Prisons did not disclose the specific reason for the recent reduction, but it is noted that inmates at FPC Bryan can earn credits toward early release through productive activities or participation in recidivism reduction programs as part of the First Step Act. Qualified inmates can earn up to 54 days of good conduct time for each year of their sentence. Holmes was ordered, along with her former Theranos CEO or COO, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, to pay $452 million in restitution to victims. However, Holmes' lawyer argued that her limited financial resources would make it difficult for her to make the monthly restitution payments. U.S. District Judge Edward Davila amended the payment schedule, stating that Holmes would not be required to make payments until after serving her 9-year sentence. Despite her incarceration, Holmes celebrated her 40th birthday in February with her husband and 2 young children.
Do you remember the story of this woman?
Yeah, she just flat out lied to everybody and stole millions of dollars from people who were hoping to help people detect and overcome medical issues that we currently don't have the tools we need to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And there probably are people who counted on her promises and ended up not doing things that they would have otherwise done for themselves and letting their health get worse because of that. So I mean, I remember her arguing that she was under his thrall and it was his fault that she committed these crimes. But the evidence didn't show that. The evidence showed that she was a mover and shaker in this company, and that she was the initiator. So she is the one that lied. She is the one that got people to put up millions of dollars based on something that was never going to happen. And she is the one that took people for a ride. And it just amazes me that she can get. And I mean, this is supposed to be available, right, to all prisoners, this type of getting your sentence reduced for good conduct and participating in recidivism reduction programs. But I'm not sure that I believe that she would get quite the same treatment if she was a man. There are times when men get ordered to do these programs and they don't get their sentence reduced because the program is part of their sentence. And in terms of having to pay people back, nobody seems to consider men's ability to do that when it's ordered for them to do. Nobody turns around and says, oh, well, you don't have the money, so you don't have to pay this money back that you stole. And nobody does that with child support. Nobody does that with fraud. Nobody does that with theft. None of it.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's just another example of, women getting like a slap on the wrist compared to men to commit the same crime. In fact, she got an award for this. There was a cable show made about her, or a movie or something, if I remember correctly. The whole framing of this is actually like very favorable to her, despite what she's actually done.
Yeah, she was, especially before they discovered it was fraud. She was a media darling. And she still is, unfortunately, even though she's actually just a huge fraudster.
Yeah, there's something appealing to people about women who manage to sort of like deceive people and get away with it. There's like a fantasy associated with that or something. So I got a super chat from Richard Bier. I'm gonna read it out really quick. He says for $5 and then $5. So I guess one of those was support for the fundraiser. Thank you, Richard. He says, didn't I mention something about Elisabeth Holmes during last Thursday's patron show? Hannah,
I think so.
A patron for access to patron shows and Hannah Tangents, as well as premium hot mic Hannah that is behind the paywall. Thank you for that. All right. I promise you guys, I don't feel as bad as I sound. So anyway, yeah, I thought this might be a shorter show than normal, just because Hannah has stuff to do, and also because I don't want to put my throat through too much. But thank you for the super chow. Yeah, I mean, it's just a follow-up. I'm not really surprised by any of this. I had a feeling that Elisabeth Holmes was not going to, say, pay the same kind of price that like the guys at Enron probably had to pay, for example. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Enron guys got away with a lot more too.
She's basically just a con artist who used healthcare as her con, and people who were desperate to help people in desperate situations as her marks.
Yeah. Richard Beard gives another $5 and says she takes in billions of dollars. I want to say either 4.9 billion or 9.4 billion in investments. One of the investors did happen to be Walmart. If you have to like sell yourself to two potential investors, honestly, like being a woman is probably like a big plus if you think about it, right? Like it's like if you can convince people that you are like an unlikely candidate for investment because you're part of some oppressed group, then you're probably going to get more support. I think that's sort of the basis, the most sympathetic basis for DEI funding, for example, is the people who pay into that stuff they operate under the presumption that they're helping the less fortunate. And who is less fortunate than women? So
Well,
it's
one
just
other
something to think
thing,
about. Yeah.
they have that score, that ESG score that banks give them,
Mm-hmm.
different companies and everything, and that would include companies that invest. So
Yes.
if they're choosing to invest with somebody because the person is a woman, and there is some way that they can basically exploit that for their ESG score, well, that creates situations like this. It makes investors and businesses vulnerable, makes the public vulnerable, and the economy vulnerable to female con artists. And also, like, this happened because she was a con artist, but stuff like this can happen because the individual running the show is incompetent. And there have been other instances where people have lost, hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars because somebody that they put in charge of or relied upon to direct how something was done, or to market it, or otherwise, make sure that their money was well spent, didn't know how to do their job, or just sucked at doing their job even if they did know how to do it. And the same result happens. They just don't get treated the same because instead of lying about the product, they're lying about their own performance. So when women con companies like this, everybody loses.
Yeah.
And you can even say it hurts women, because the next woman that comes along with something like this, everybody's gonna be like, "Was this another, Theranos? Is this going to
For sure.
be fake? Look, she's blonde and pretty. Was this just are we being tricked again?"
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna make it harder for somebody that's telling the truth.
Yes, absolutely. It's a good point. And yeah, it's like basically like the women who are trying to do, honest work, they end up lumped in with these other women. And it's not good for them, but it is kind of a consequence of this like overt favoritism, you know. I got another wait, no, I think I read that one already. Yeah, so let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next story. Hannah, I'm gonna hand it off to you again. We're gonna talk about attempted moida.
Yeah, this one really got me when I saw it, because it just, I don't understand this woman. In a lot of ways, but Arizona man prevents death at the hands of his insane wife. A Tucson, Arizona woman, initially charged with attempted first-degree murder, has been sentenced to 3 years probation after attempting to poison her husband. Melody Felicano Johnson, at age 39, initially pleaded not guilty against the charge of attempted first-degree murder after it was discovered that she had been dosing her husband's morning coffee with bleach.
Yikes.
Like, that wouldn't just poison, it would hurt. Like, there are poisons that wouldn't hurt, at least. This would hurt. And it might hurt and leave him in pain for the rest of his life, which might be just as long as it was going to be if she didn't put bleach in his coffee. Her husband, who was living with her and their child in Germany at the time, due to his service in the U.S. Air Force, suspected her of tampering with his drink after noticing it had a foul taste. The husband then set up security cameras within the house, which caught her in the act. He then proceeded to pretend to drink the coffee until he and his family moved back to their native Tucson, Arizona.
It's Tucson.
That's Tucson. You're right.
I know.
Half asleep.
It's Ohio.
This is bad too, because I have to go to work tonight, and I know that.
Well, hopefully you don't have to say the word Tucson while you're there.
No. I have to be awake though. Like that, I should be more awake, than that. Anyway, at which point he alerted the police to his evidence. Investigators searched the house, finding hidden containers that smelled of bleach, and noted that the coffee machine smelled of bleach. Melody Felicano Johnson would originally be offered a plea deal, which she accepted, pleading down from attempted first-degree murder to 2 counts of adding poison or a harmful substance to food or drink. After serving 1 year in prison during the trial, she was sentenced to 3 years probation and mental health treatment. The motive for the poisoning is believed to be her husband's death benefits, as well as the divorce the couple was going through.
Holy crap.
Mental health treatment, usually they, like, in a situation like this, you're deemed to have done something like this due to your mental health if you don't have a mercenary motive like money. And it's pretty obvious that she had a mercenary motive like money. If she wanted his death benefits, and if she wanted to kill him in order to avoid getting divorced, I know there's differences in the military with divorce than there is in the civilian world. If, for instance, they didn't have a cause for the divorce that would be considered someone being at fault for the divorce, like nobody cheated, nobody beat anybody, nobody did anything that led to the divorce, which obviously this would after the fact, but nobody could go into court and say, well, I deserve more consideration because the reason we're divorcing is my spouse cheated or beat me or emotionally abused me or economically abused me or anything like that. Right? None of that happened. She's not going to get the same benefits that a woman in civilian family court would, where, you know, the court presumes her the better parent and the court presumes her deserving of half of everything and all that. If she's divorcing him and he didn't do anything wrong, he actually does get, if I understand correctly, he actually does get some sympathy from military courts. And then if she did cheat, or, you know, like if she did something wrong, that actually works even more against her in military courts. So that would be a mercenary reasoning as well. But this woman is obviously an idiot, right? She's married to a guy who clearly is somebody who does his job and brings home his paycheck and takes care of his family. And
Yep.
she can't find a way to make things work with him. What did she marry a soldier for if she's all about money? You know, he's not going to get rich, right? He is going to be a person who is accountable. He is going to be a person who went into this profession because he's got some level of patriotism, probably pretty high, because he's you know, generally speaking, going to be a pretty tough guy. It just, like, something's obviously idiotic about her to get into a relationship like this if she can't love someone like that.
Maybe a bear asked her to do it.
Yeah, maybe a bear asked her to do it. Well, then the other thing is, and I hate to say this because, like, it's not something that I've thought about doing to another person. But if I was going to think about doing something like this to another person, this is one of the worst crimes you can commit. Murder is one of the worst crimes you can commit.
Oh yeah.
You get your ducks in a row. If you're going to do something stupid like that, you at least cover your ass. You don't do something that you don't know whether it's going to work. You know, this seems like she just sort of impulsively started trying to hurt the guy. Now, at the other end of it, you know, I'm glad that he caught her. The nice thing about stupid criminals is that, you know, because she used something foul tasting, he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And that's good.
I wonder how long, you know, like how quickly he caught it. How many times did he have bleach filled coffee? And I wonder what the proportion of coffee to bleach was, you know?
Well, for one thing, it would burn your mouth.
Yeah.
But and you would taste it. I mean, you've smelled?
No,
bleach?
I've smelled it. Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever gotten it on your fingers and then gotten it in your mouth?
No, no.
So I clean for a living, and I use a lot of bleach. I use Clorox bleach, and I use Clorox cleanup, and I use other similar like generics of that. So a lot of chlorine bleach, and then I
Hmm.
also use other cleaning chemicals, and it's nasty. It's got a very bitter taste. It sucks all the moisture out of your mouth. It burns, and
Yeah.
that's just if you get a little bit on your skin, and you get it on your mouth after you don't get it all washed off of your hands. And for her to put that in a drink and think he was not going to taste it, um, like I said, she's a moron. Imagine imagine being fired from criminal status, from dangerous criminal status, because you're incompetent. You're just too incompetent to be a dangerous criminal. Sorry, lady, you can't have this dangerous criminal job. You're not doing it right. Like, how humiliating. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but she just thought she was gonna, kill her husband. She just thought she was gonna, and this is not an uncommon thing. Um, it's one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this was because when I looked into proxy violence, female proxy violence, I actually found that it's rather common for women to get busted trying to hire a hitman, or trying to poison a guy, or trying to create an accident by damaging his vehicle, or otherwise doing things that, messing up things that he needs. There have been instances where women have messed with medical equipment, women have messed with people's medication, women have given people medication they shouldn't have. When women have, there are many instances when women have poisoned their partners. And we hear all the time that men are evil and men are violent and men are dangerous, and women are unsafe with men, because approximately two-thirds of the murder of intimate partners is done to female intimate partners.
Yeah.
And so it's assumed that that's all male intimate partners doing the murder. It's not necessarily. Women kill each other too. Lesbians also murder their partners. So it's also possible for more of that than people think to be female perpetrated. But a lot of times women don't get caught. Right? This woman got caught. She used bleach. But there are instances where a man takes the wrong medication. There are instances where a man has a car accident because he didn't maintain his brakes, or something else went wrong with his car. There are instances where it looks like maybe a man was mugged. Somebody was killed during a break-in and they don't catch the criminal, where you don't know that wasn't the wife or girlfriend trying to get rid of him, especially for mercenary reasons like this. So it's important for people to understand. Miss Felicano Johnson was dumb in the way that she did it. Fortunately for her intended victim. If someone is going to try to kill you, your best bet is if it's a moron. But a lot of women aren't necessarily that dumb. They're dumb enough to still commit a crime like this, marry some guy that they don't love, and then commit a crime. And some women don't get caught until after they've killed multiple husbands.
Mm-hmm.
And some women never get caught. So, when you hear those statistics, and, feminists will usually make the statistic about how many women a year are killed, or how it's most likely to be the way that a woman gets killed, because men have pretty much done everything they can to eliminate all of the other ways a person can get killed from happening to women. But you can't prevent women from being dumbasses and getting together with men who are dangerous, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
women have free will. And unfortunately, not all of them have big brains. So,
I have a sound for that. Hold on a second. Is it an anchor man? Yeah, here we go.
You're just a woman with a small brain. With a brain a third the size of us. It's science.
Okay. So I got a Rumble rant and some super chows. I want to read the Rumble rant first. That's why I put Rumble chat on the screen. Nova fan gave us $1 and said, "Won't feminists try to claim financial abuse if a woman could get financial benefit from her husband's death? She's struggling during economic hardship." Yeah, that often happens. If the sympathy goes through the roof. We've seen lots of cases, many such cases. Do you want to say anything to that Rumble rant, or?
Just if your goal is money, don't marry a poor man.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna be a gold digger, be a gold digger correctly, or at least be smart about it, or even better,
Shoot
be
for
a
the
gold
moon.
producer. Right? If
Yeah.
you really want money that bad, learn to do things that will get you lots of money. And my first hint on how to accomplish that is that OnlyFans isn't it for the majority of women.
Nope.
$6 a month, and some chick was making a big deal about, yeah, I earn like $6 a month on OnlyFans. I'm not a hoe. It's like, yes, you are. You're just a really cheap one.
Yeah. You're not worth a lot. Okay.
You know?
So thank you
It's
for that.
fine if they want to do that. That's their business if they want to do that. But don't come complaining to me about being objectified and not getting any money for it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to make a lot of money, become a gastroenterologist.
There you go. All right, so I got some super chows, and then we move on to the next story. So Great Indoors gives us $10 and says, "Honey for the badger's throat." Don't worry, I'm taking care of it the best I can. Meredith G gives us $5 and says, "HBR News Force 55, honey for the badgers." Thank you, Meredith. And then Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, "If he were to wind up in a persistent comatose state, there is the possibility that she could continue to collect disability benefits as long as he remains on life support if the military service were to authorize the continued care or if he were a retiree."
Yep.
Yeah. There was probably some government money that she was looking to get from him, if anything. All right, thanks for the super chows, and we're gonna move on to the next story. Unfortunately, I just saw that the draft of the story I put up on Patreon is a little bit off, so I'm gonna read it, and I apologize. It's like some little changes that didn't make it into that version, so it just starts off different. We're gonna be looking at this weird thing that happened in this business. So there was a tribunal ruling that stated that not agreeing with feminism, which is an ideology, according to them, aimed at, quote, achieving equality between men and women, end quote, is incompatible with an equal and diverse workspace and does not merit respect or align with human dignity. Additionally, openly expressing views suggesting that there was an effort to remove men from management roles in the workplace could potentially violate equality laws. So there was these allegations were made by a manager named Kevin Leggy. He filed a motion for discrimination as women were being promoted above men at this agency. It was like a wildlife and sustainability institution, a government thing, I think. And because feminism, he doesn't believe in it, he's a non-feminist, is how he described himself. So in response to these allegations made by Leggy, the Environment Agency denied all claims and asserted that he was dismissed for committing fraud by claiming a full-time salary while simultaneously working as a counselor. Consequently, Legge was ordered to pay £20,000 of the agency's £106,000 in legal costs for acting unreasonably. The employment judge expressed perplexity regarding Legge's assertion of holding a non-feminist philosophical belief, as feminism, according to the judge, is primarily about advocating for equal rights and opportunities for all genders. Already that's a messed up sentence, by the way. The judge emphasized that the Environment Agency aims to foster an inclusive workforce while ensuring that the best candidates are selected for roles with the aspiration of reflecting the diversity of society. Oh my God, the buzzwords salad in this.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
That's insane. And I'm not surprised at all, even though it is insane. That happened in the UK, not in the US. If it was in the US, he could file a lawsuit, and there might be a chance that he could get that overturned. But since it's in the UK, I don't know how that would work. But I will say this: if an ideology that is primarily for the benefit of women, and it's primarily about women, that advocates for quotas in order to remedy the over promotion and over hiring in their mind of men, that is to women's detriment, again, in their mind. And you're looking at a situation where if it's one job, one person can have it. If they have a quota system, and then they have to put women in a certain number of those jobs, regardless of whether they're the best person, and regardless of whether they have to withhold that job from a man, right? Even if he is the best person. So it's bullshit. The whole statement that the judge made is dishonest on its face, and it is definitely sexist. It is definitely discrimination to tell men that they cannot complain when jobs are being taken away from them on the basis of their gender in order to supposedly promote diversity. And it certainly isn't inclusion if a guy is being excluded because he is a man and because he objects to being told that he cannot have the same opportunities as a woman because he is a man. Like, that is not equality. If women are not inferior to men, then they would be able to compete on the same playing field and obtain promotions, obtain jobs, obtain accolades, create their own success, and so on the same level of men in the workplace, without having someone come along and reserve rewards for them, regardless of outcomes. You can't have it both ways. Either women are equal to men, and women can do what men do, and when women do the same job title, they are doing the same work, or you have to reserve spaces for women because women won't get promoted because they don't do the same work.
Yeah. So, I have and I thought, I'm glad, though I will say this. I'm glad that he used the term non-feminist, because it means that term is getting out there into the world. So this is a big plus. I mean, obviously, these agencies, especially the ones that are in like countries like Europe and Britain, they're going to push back. They're going to throw their hands up and say, I don't understand why you're against equality. But that's, those counter arguments are in the rearview mirror at this point. And anyone who's saying non-feminist, they know what they're saying now. They understand that this is a very important thing to say. It's a very important way to frame this conversation. I'm glad that's happening. I'm sorry that he's dealing with these suits, but I think it's only gonna strengthen his resolve, if anything. And so yeah, I mean, like I would say see if there's a way for anyone to support this guy. Look him up online, shoot him some words of encouragement. I got another super chow, and then this was going to be the last story, but since we have extra time, I'm going to give you a bonus story that's also really important. Okay, so Richard Pierre, once again, with the $5, thank you, says, this sounds like what the Roman Catholic Church would do to anyone who would dissent the church's teachings. So this whole undertaking is a modern day heresy trial minus the torture chamber. Yes.
Yes, that is exactly right. And they don't do the physical torture, but they will do the humiliation torture. And they will publicly humiliate you, and they will browbeat you into at least they will try to browbeat you into feeling embarrassed.
Yeah. So, thank you. Let me just make sure there's no rumble rants. No. Thank you for the super chow. So I'm going to add an extra story as a bonus story. And I'm sorry for how I sound. I can't help it. But I think this story is really important. So you may have heard of a teacher, a professor that teaches the Socratic method of critical thinking that went viral. His name is Warren Smith. And a while back, he got into a debate sort of discussion with a student about J.K. Rowling and her supposed transphobia, right? You guys might remember, I'm gonna add this right now to here and share this with you guys. This is from Not the Bee, okay? And I'm gonna show you the video so you guys can see it. Maybe it'll jog your memory a
So
little
these
bit.
guys want to talk about J.K. Rowling? Is that so? What's going on with that? What do you want to know?
She's had a pretty controversial past. I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? And, like, do you still like her work despite her bigoted opinions?
So let's get specific, though. Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted? We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that, given her bigoted opinions.
Yeah.
So first, let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions? So when you say bigoted opinions,
she has had a history of being extremely transphobic, I've heard.
Hey, you've heard. So what? Can you give me an example?
I'm not gonna play the whole thing. It's like 5 minutes, but you guys have probably seen this guy. Now, look, this is not about J.K. Rowling. Don't talk about J.K. Rowling. That's not important. We know she's a radical feminist. That's not the point. The discussion around this guy has to do with him essentially confronting his students about thinking critically and exercising the Socratic method. So when you call J.K. Rowling a bigot and you are told that she is transphobic, you have to explain what are, like, how do we come to that conclusion? But doing critical thinking was his whole spiel, okay? And this is important, not because of the J.K. Rowling thing, not relevant, don't talk about that, but rather, here's what happened, okay? So, back in February, high school teacher Warren Smith went viral after being asked by a student, do you still like J.K. Rowling's work despite her bigoted opinions? He talks about media a lot, hence that. The conversation that followed was a masterclass in the Socratic method and critical thinking. In it, he asked a series of questions that forced the student to think critically about the assumptions he was making. And it shows the video. You can watch it if you want to. That doesn't matter. It went viral. It was all over the internet. And then today, it was revealed that he was fired. And he got fired from his job shortly after that video went viral. And the people who fired him, his superiors, never explained what it was. They didn't talk to him about it. They just took his computer from him. And we're all sort of like forced to speculate at this point. Even he made a video trying to understand why he got fired. And I think that what matters here is it says here, according to Smith, he wasn't given a clear reason that he was fired, although he seems to believe it was because of the public interviews he did after his video went viral. He was on the Rubin Report and a couple of other places. I think he was on like the Daily Wire or PragerU or something. He also revealed the school took his computer, which contained several projects and books he had been working on for years. And so what I think is what matters here is a male teacher who was really good at teaching critical thinking, which is essentially the ability to learn how to think and not what to think, was fired from his job after he essentially made a demonstration of how to critically think. The J.K. Rowling conversation is simply the impetus, but it is not really the root of this issue, okay? Because the worst thing, the most threatening thing for people who supposedly educate students is for those students to learn how to think from a man like this. And men that teach are a dying breed, probably because they think more like this guy does. So I thought this was worth mentioning. You can give us your thoughts on that, Hannah.
So I've noticed this has been a thing for quite a while. That I don't want to say the left, but in a way that's probably the best shortcut for it. The communist approving, authoritarian, feminist approving, anti-family, rugged individuality, and so on.
Yeah, anti-masculinity.
Right, yeah. Anti-masculinity set have spent years trying to take ownership and control of the concept of critical thinking. So if you look at websites where, like methods of critical thinking, things that you're supposed to do in order to evaluate something, whether it's an assumption or whether it's evidence-based and so on, and also explanations of flaws in thought that take you away from critical thinking, like believing that somebody must be wrong because they're ugly, or calling somebody a name and thinking that wins you the argument. Those things, they'll use examples intended to reinforce talking points that are generally speaking like pro-communist, pro-progressive, pro-woke talking points. And I've seen it, it's been that way for at least, I want to say at least since I started using those sites to show people what I was talking about when I would explain the logic fallacies and stuff.
Yeah.
In 2009. They already were sort of peppered with, here's a way to understand this logic fallacy, and then it would go through, and the thinking it gave would actually be fallacious in itself, but you couldn't debunk it using this other logic fallacy, and it would be promoting some political ideal. That's what's going on here, in a way, because he's not using critical thinking to try to make, he's not exploiting the idea of critical thinking and the image of critical thinking to try to make somebody feel like an idiot for questioning a woke narrative or to try to promote a woke narrative. In fact, he's using it to question a woke narrative, and that is verboten, right?
Yeah.
The wrong think boogeyman must always be killed, and the woke will always do their best to kill it, and this is how it happens. even if you are right, even if you are using your tools the way that you're supposed to be using them in a classroom where you are teaching the students how to use those tools. And by the way, if what the student's conclusion that he started with was, if it had been correct, he would have been able to argue it without any difficulty, right? But this is about denying critical thinking as a tool to anyone who might use it to question woke narratives, and killing the wrong think boogeyman by firing, the individual who made it look like it's okay to use critical thinking to question woke narratives.
Yeah. Yeah, so unfortunate news for this guy. He does have other jobs. So he did say in the video, you can watch it on his channel. I'll drop a link to this Not the Bee article in the Patreon. I just added this on last minute. So I think that's all we have for now. So we're going to end the show there. Thanks, guys, for coming on. We're going to go into the after show and play around with the editing software. I got it working, so it should be good. I checked it before I set up the after show. So, don't blame me if it doesn't, but it should be fine. We're going to end it there. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Better than you? I guess I'm going a little further than you are. Yeah, I'm fucking better than you, okay? Much better than you. You are garbage.